Reactive Training Systems.
Welcome back to the RTS podcast. I'm Mike Tushir, and today I'm going to be joined by Coach Gabby and Coach Adam, and our guest is Elliott Sykes. Elliott is an RTS athlete and has recently competed in the Sub-Junior World Championships, where he did absolutely outstanding, phenomenal. There's not enough superlatives to put on a performance like this, okay? So just to add in a little bit more detail, he's competing in the 74 class where he totaled 766. So over 10 times the body weight total as a 74. He pulls in 113.5 good list points, or if you prefer dots, that's a 560 dots. Okay, as an 18-year-old. So absolutely phenomenal, outstanding performance. Obviously won his weight class, got a gold medal in every discipline, set a bunch of world records, just truly phenomenal. I thought it would be a real treat for us to get to talk to him, to get his perspective as an athlete. And we were fortunate to be able to coordinate between him and his coach and me and Coach Gabby. So 4 different people on all different sides of the earth. So coordinating time zones is definitely a challenge. But we were able to hear perspectives both from athlete and coach. And I think that's really interesting and valuable. And I hope you really enjoy this conversation. So without any further delay, here's our conversation with Elliott Sykes.
I'm Elliot. I'm coached by Adam. Been coached for, 2 years now?
Yep.
Just about. Yeah. Super long. Recently went to IPF Sub-Junior Junior Worlds, and I won best overall there and also won my weight class. That was pretty cool. And now I'm on here, which is pretty crazy.
I see you started powerlifting in 2021. Is that correct?
Yeah. Just completely by myself. I was like, hey, if I sign up because I was like 15, I was like, hey, if I sign up for this competition, will you drive me there to my mom? Because I couldn't drive. And she was like, oh, yeah, pretty much. And then they were like, what is powerlifting? So then they watched the West Side versus the World documentary, and that was a great introduction. If you've watched that, if you were a parent of a 15-year-old and you watched that, you definitely want your child to do that sport, obviously.
How did you navigate around
But,
that? I would imagine that's like a deal breaker for a lot of parents.
Yeah. I managed to show them that it was very much not that kind of sport anymore. Plus, they lended some trust for me. At a certain point, they were doing random blood work tests on me to make sure I wasn't going crazy or anything based off of what they saw, to make sure I was staying natural. They're both in the medical field, so they're super big on that sort of thing. Yeah. But I earned their trust, and now we're good.
That's great. Because
I would imagine by now.
Now we're good.
Yeah.
I remember when I got started with strength training and I bought my first protein powder, my parents were very concerned because they thought it was the steroids. Yeah. But I have to admit, I listened to your recent podcast appearance on King of the Lifts, and I also low-key stalked your Instagram. So I saw that you, like back in the days, you started off being quite lean already because you were into bodybuilding as well. You also have a background in swimming and wrestling. And correct me if I'm wrong, but initially you had planned on going back to wrestling and bodybuilding after beating some records. And now all of a sudden you're just on top and you just keep going, which is really great to see.
Yeah, pretty much my original plan was, man, I'm going to powerlift for a year. I'm going to break some national records and I'm going to quit. I was like, then I'm going to quit. And then I was like, oh, this is a lot more fun than I anticipated. And I started gathering like social media attention as well, like through the way. Like I had a video on TikTok hit 10 million views. And then I had 2 others hit 1 million. And I was like, can I quit this? I don't know if I can. I like this a little bit too much. And the sport has only continued to grow. And so has my following. And it's been really fun. So I just decided I can't quit. I still have things I can do and more goals I can achieve. I don't want to back out now.
When was it you had your first viral experience?
It was probably like December of 2021. Like I had videos that would blow up, before that. Like I would have 100,000 views or a couple 100,000. But then I had this one video, I deadlifted I was 15 at the time. I was 140. This was before my second meet that I ever did. And I don't know if any of you saw how my first meet went, but it was really bad. I went 5 for 9. Didn't know anything. Flat in it was before my second meet and prepped for it. And I deadlifted 565 at 140. So 255 at what would it be, like 64-ish. And at first it was like, oh wow, this is getting some traction. And then it just kept gaining traction. I was like, oh, whoa. And then I had another video of that, which I posted recently. Ironically, I posted a 495 squat like a week after. That didn't gain 100 mil, or didn't gain 1 million views. What gained 1 million views was me walking out a 500 squat and then folding under it.
Saw that one there as well, yeah.
But listen, all publicity is good publicity,
I
right?
guess so. But I was wondering, like, how do you feel that powerlifting gets appreciated on TikTok? Because I'm not really on TikTok. I just see that it really gets hyped nowadays on Instagram, which is nice. Like, we have this whole community. Is there actually also a powerlifting community on TikTok, or how do you feel about it?
So I've been less active on TikTok recently just because I lost some momentum on it, and because I was focusing on Instagram more recently, because I feel like the sponsors I can get from there are more like solid, and the community interaction I get from there is more solid too. But in terms of TikTok, like having powerlifting appreciation, it was pretty big. I feel like a lot of the people that we see now, at least younger ages, got a lot of their traction off of TikTok, at least initially. It's a really easy platform where you can blow up really quickly, and it's attention grabbing, just like Instagram Reels. Like when you see these big numbers, you're like, oh, this is grabbing my attention. So it's almost like the perfect platform for powerlifting in a way, because it's like, it's quick, it's snappy. Like, I think a critique you could make about powerlifting in general is that it's, for some people, not for me personally, but for some people, it's hard to watch like a whole meet and keep engaged, because it's ramping up, and at first it's really easy, and sometimes you're just looking for the big hitters, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
but
like it all looks the same, and the attempts are
exactly
over quickly. Yeah,
exactly. And for TikTok and Instagram, that's not really an issue, because you get your big hitters just shoot it out at you as soon as you swipe the page. You can just see, oh wow, okay, he's deadlifting however much, and that's, I feel like, a lot more engaging. And then also, even for the people who aren't big hitters or as strong, they can make more creative freeform content with it and make it more engaging with like relatable jokes and stuff like that. So I think it's helped a lot in growing powerlifting. I think it's been really nice.
Has the growth of your audience affected what I want to say here, the way that you approach your training mentally? Do you notice that you're either more or less motivated, or that your interest in it varies according to, I don't know, any other outside factors? I don't know. I'm just curious of what you've noticed, if anything, like how that's affected your training.
It's very much a double-edged sword. I feel like Adam can attest to this. I had I think 2 or 3 meets that I was going to do that I backed out of. And part of it was because I was like, I didn't feel like my prep was going as good as it could have been. But another part of it was like, and that's an issue because I've been building so much hype around my lifts, and people are expecting this, but they might get this, you know what I mean? And so, but now I took a social media break, just put my head down and trained. And then I came back a little bit before Worlds and Nationals around. And I was like, cares? Like, it's very important to me. Like, I very obviously want to gain traction, but it's not like anyone's going to see my numbers and go, wow, that's awful. Like, I'm just going to go, this guy should quit. I'm going to unfollow him. He's not doing as good as I want him to do. No one cares that much. Obviously, people follow me, but no one's going to see my lifts not go a certain way and just completely quit on me. So I feel like I have to realize that I have more time than most people. Like, I'm still very young. I still have 5 years in juniors now that I'm entering it. So I can relax a little bit. Not that I'm going to, but I don't have to put so much pressure on myself. I could just put my head down, work, post consistently, get some momentum on the social media platforms, and work towards that big performance that I'm searching for. just a matter of time. Been working with Adam for 2 years, and we're still learning more and more about my training because sometimes I was not the best with logging, but I'm getting better. So we're trying to learn as much as we can because I've been looking at that, what's it called, that emerging strategies course, and I'm learning a lot, and I'm learning, wow, this is really important. Okay, we should double down on that. All right.
Yeah.
I'm excited because I think
I would imagine too that things are changing rapidly for a lifter your age and it's like your level of development. Adam, do you notice that? Do you notice that like when you're writing training, do the effective training interventions, are they stable? They would be for, say, somebody in the open, or do they seem to change? Do they change a lot, or you don't notice that so much?
It's really not changing a whole deal. Like the past couple of meets we've done together, we've run a very similar strategy into the comps, and we got pretty close to what we predicted. But being said that we're willing to try some different things for next year, because I feel like there's a few things that need to be fine-tuned. But I'm finding with Elliot, there are plenty of things that work because he's still quite a young lifter. So as long as he's lifting and not lifting too much, there's progressive overload. Obviously, he's going to make some progress. It's just finding what gets him going. And there's been a couple of strategies that we found that he's had a huge spike in performance and things that are not huge. It's just, as Elliot said, he hasn't done a great job with logging. So it's me through his Instagram finding where it's gone really well and looking through his training where it's gone well, and then making those assumptions off that, which have been pretty good. But I think
some training in will definitely help.
Since he's get distance, it's going to get better.
It does let you be more detailed with it, which I'm sure is the direction you guys want to go in. But at the same time, like what you're talking about, Adam, is definitely not nothing. Like you can make these correlations with just like identifying which blocks were effective and which ones weren't, and just pull it that way. I've been doing a little bit more of that with some of the more dynamic programs I've been writing. Just annotating, this block was good, this block was not good, and then just do coach stuff. Just like you rely on an athlete to be an athlete and perform. Once you've hit a certain level of experience, I can say, okay, now do coach stuff. You don't want to rely on that too much. And just like an athlete may perform badly if they're tired or something, coaches are subject to the same kind of things. Yeah, different ways to get at that end goal.
That's right. Yeah, it's before I started working with RTS, I didn't have the block reviews and things like that. So I've used a lot of different ways of finding what worked for the athlete. And that's helped a lot with that. And also just collaborating with Elliot as well. Hey, this block, how did you feel with this block? Do you feel like you got a lot out of it? And he's, hell yeah. Well, this one, I'm not so much. So we're like, okay, see what we can make out of what we discussed and what I've found over two and a bit years working together, and then see what we can come up with. We found that he can peak really fast and well doing double frequency stuff, but I don't want that to be the only tool. But it's good to know we have that tool if we need it. But like we got to meet in January. We're going to try not doing that and see how he goes. We can push him over the line. Maybe if we underpeak, maybe he could be quite sensitive to it. Yeah, there's that. It's just going to be fun trying to figure out what we can do and what we can find. I know we got plenty of tools that we can throw at and just try and see how he responds.
Yeah. It's interesting to see like the differences in the theoretical side of the programming and then the more pragmatic approaches. There's layers to it, right? Yeah, you may shoot for the A+ solution, but the reality is sometimes you don't have that and you just take what you can get.
Yeah, that's right. Same thing with just data. If you're only looking at data solely, it only tells you a part of the story or part of how the athlete's responding. You don't know what they were going through at the time. Maybe sleep was really good at the time. And whether things weren't working so well, maybe they were going through a lot of stress. So there's that to take into consideration as well. So just having that collaborative approach as well, seeing where the athlete was at during that block, and maybe those blocks that didn't work so well, maybe we'll try that again down the path and not just say that didn't work well.
Yeah, because numbers can only tell you so much, but at the end of the day, you're also working with a human being, so you get to know Elliot also, so you will realize over time, even if he might not always log his training, that's like how hyped he feels, how motivated, what's going on in his life as you communicate with him, or even just scroll through his Instagram, because this also gives you a quite good overview, because it's like a portfolio, because Elliot, you don't really hide your training, like you really like creating the hype. And it's really nice to see, because a lot of athletes nowadays, they hide training, especially approaching a big competition. Also, this is something where I'm wondering, is this something that you definitely want to keep doing, or can you see yourself like taking some steps back leading up to upcoming competitions? Also to like maybe the pressure.
Personally, like I've made some crazy bold claims right before a meet, like I'm gonna total this, and then come super short. So for me at this point, it's like there is pressure, but I'm just going there to do as good as I can. Obviously, I have goals, and obviously, I'm trying to create hype. But if I fail, it's not like I'm gonna be like, oh, it's the end of the world. Like after Worlds, like I made this huge post. I was like, I'm gonna hit 800, and then I totaled 766. So it wasn't even close.
And that's a terrible total at 74, and a sub.
Terrible. But I should quit.
You almost pulled to break a junior world record, which won Worlds the year before.
Those thumbs. But yeah, like Adam said, like it's not like it's like I'm putting up something horrible or bad. It's just I came up short, and sometimes that happens. And for me, I love building the hype. I think it's so fun. It's so fun. Plus, it gains you more traction too in general, and that's what I need to do. Like in terms of making, because I want to do the sport for the long term. In terms of making it sustainable for me, I need to make a name for myself, I feel. And if doing that involves making some bold claims and coming up a little short, so be it. I don't think I saw many people talk. I mean, a few times I was asked, how do you feel that you didn't hit 800? And I was like, oh, like it sucks, but like it is what it is, man. It's my first Worlds. But it's not like everyone was like, wow, you said you were going to hit 800 and you did it. Wow, you suck. But like no one said that. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
Right.
I think I've come to realize that it's just not as deep as some people make it out to be to themselves. And because like I got caught up in that for a while, where I was like, I would put these gold numbers and talk to people about them, and then I'd come to meet them and I'd be like, wow, I'm not even close. And I'd be like, wow, I look like a fool. I look so dumb. But now that I've just come off as confident and even overconfident, which is fine, because I mean, I'm still putting up crazy stuff. That's okay with me if I come up a little bit confident.
Of course. But it also seems like you really enjoy this, because like after Worlds, check like your social media following grew from 9,000 up to 17,000 now, which of course like it comes with an increased pressure, but at the same time, it also gives you the feeling that you really have people that are looking up to you. You have a community that you can share your passion with, and a lot of people that are really like want to see you do good, which I don't know anyone who was disappointed by your performance recently. Exactly. So yeah, that's really great. And I think this is also something, of course, that can just keep motivating you when you have days where you don't feel like training maybe. Yeah.
100%. Like the last thing on my mind after the competition was, oh wow, I didn't live up to my Instagram post that I made before this. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Do you also draw inspiration from other lifters' achievements on Instagram?
For me, it's hard to say. To an extent, I do. There are definitely lifters I look up to, and I do see them do things, and I'm just like, I want to do that. But it's not so much looking up to them. It's more, wow, I didn't even know. I guess it is in a way. It's, wow, I didn't even know you could do this. I look at Agatha Sitko. I see her marching up the weight classes, just taking heads, and I'm like, I want to do that at some point. I don't know how I will, but I want to, because that is so cool to me. But I don't spend most of my time I spend on Instagram is spent like interacting with like fan base and like replying to DMs and all that stuff, because I try to reply to as many as I can, and there's a lot, and a lot of them are the same repetitive question, like, how do I increase my deadlift? It's, man, I can't just give you the answer to that. It depends. But that's what I spend most of my Instagram time doing. But every so often, like, I'll look at lifters and I'm like, wow, that's something I want to be in this sport. That's something I want to do in the future. Like, I want to be this kind of symbol to people. And I think more than anything, what I look up to for some of these lifters is like how they interact with people getting into the sport, and like the kind of role, like the values they instill in a way. Like, I want to be like a good influence on the people that watch me. Like, I see some of these like teen lifters that got propelled to fame like really quickly, and they're just like immature and but like in a
Still
bad
teens,
way,
right?
like a very bad way, because right, exactly. But they don't realize, hey, I have 100,000 people following me. A lot of people are looking at what you do and being like, wow, that's so cool. Even if it's like smoking weed in the gym, it's like,
Yeah.
why are you posting about that, man?
I can see that could be like a different kind of pressure and like a different dynamic. It's not
100%, because I feel like some people aren't ready for.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm still of the generation where it all seems weird to me on some level. That, yeah, I don't know. I feel a disconnect from it in some ways, but yeah, I can appreciate how just difficult it could be. Yeah.
100%. And it's like, I just feel like for some of these people, it's just too much too soon. You know what I mean? Like, I personally am not influenced by social media in that manner, but some people are, man. Like I can't tell you the amount of DMs I've gotten where it's, wow, I mean, I inspired this person to start lifting, or like, I'm supposed to sign this person's belt. Like, that's crazy to me. All it is to me is posting my training. But like, to some of these people, it's like, it means a lot, and that's super cool to me. But it makes me realize how much of an effect that some of these other people that maybe aren't the best influences have, and they don't even realize it, because like it's so weird.
It's worth taking a break and remembering none, and that's a experience that not everybody gets. Definitely cool.
100%. But yeah, I mean, it's been really cool. It's been really cool, this experience I'd imagine it's completely different than what it was like years ago without social media in it, because you got all these podcasts and all these like streams of people talking in the live chats about people, and it's just like, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. It really is. It's super cool. It's super cool.
Yeah. And it comes with an increased pressure also on trying to keep making content and stuff like this. But the most important thing is always to just be yourself, be authentic, because at the end of the day, like, it's your journey. You will have a lot to learn. Like, it's a learning process. We get better, and we don't always need to have everything figured out. Even if people are looking up to us, it's all part of the journey. And even by sharing the wins and the losses, we show that it's okay to not have everything figured out, and you can still do great after all. But is there like any advice that you would give to like young lifters that are looking up to you?
Stay patient. I feel like a lot of people put these goals for themselves as, I have to do this by now, or I have to do this to compete. Like, these numbers, and they base everything off these just completely arbitrary, really, these completely arbitrary numbers. I guarantee you, if half of these people who are saying, oh, wow, I can't compete until I hit this number, if they just competed now, they would find it would be so enjoyable instead of fixating on the numbers if they just competed. Because I think competing is one of the most fun experiences I've ever had. And I think everyone who is into the sport or into lifting in the way we do should at least compete once, because it's so fun. It really is. I think it's one of the most enjoyable feelings in the world to compete. Whether you're at Worlds or just at a local meet, I think some of the best meets I've ever had were at local meets. And it's just a super fun environment. You know what I mean? Like, it's so enjoyable to me. And I think people shouldn't drift away from that. I think numbers are very important, obviously. Like, everyone wants to PR. If you're not PRing, it's hard to stay motivated, obviously. But some people are like, wow, if I don't add 100 kilos to my total by this point, it's okay. You don't have to add 100 kilos to your total in a few months, man. Come on, relax.
Something we
And then
really
some young
directly
people
control,
too.
is it? Like we
Exactly.
can do the things. Yeah, you can do the training, you can do the recovery, and then those are actions that you can take. But then you either got stronger or you didn't, and that's if that was something you could choose, then of course you would choose it.
Exactly.
It's not like a first order choice. Yeah, I get it. The numbers and that end goal, it's important. It's motivating. I don't want to downplay it too much, but just remember at the end of the day, that's not something that you get to pick. At some point, this is the end of the career that I always end up focusing on is at some point, you've gotten as strong as you're going to get. And yeah, you would love to get stronger, but that's not up to you. It's true all along the way. It's just, it doesn't seem like that at certain points.
100%. 100%. So I feel like people get too caught up in the numbers and the arbitrary factors of the sport and forget what's actually going on in front of them, the work they're putting in and the performances. Because performances are more than just numbers. There were I didn't even hit my bench deadlift at the meet, but I overcame missing my second squat, missing my first bench, and having a huge long off season after pulling out meet after meet. Like for me, I overcame a lot of adversity, I feel, and a lot of self-doubt to get there. And it was more than just the numbers for me. It proved that I can handle the pressure and I can go up on that stage and put up numbers. Even if it's not the best numbers I've ever hit in training, even if it's not necessarily the goal I had in mind, I can still go up there and do things. And I think that's worth a lot.
Did you find that becoming at the end of your sub-junior career and now becoming a junior, do you find that some of that pressure is off to do some of these things these goals you had? Because now turn it into a junior now, you've got 5 years of being a junior. You've got loads of time to reach for new goals, etc. Did you find that there was any pressure with that?
I think, yeah, a lot of pressure was taking off, partially because I feel like I've shown that I could definitely not just hang with the juniors, I can win juniors. So I feel like a lot of pressure is off in that way, but I still want to keep building on my performances. Like I want to keep, obviously everyone wants to. I 100% want to one up what I did this last year. I don't think there's necessarily pressure to put up to win juniors or anything, because I feel like, not necessarily pressure, but I feel like I'm pretty comfortable where I am and with the numbers I have at the point in my career I'm at, because I have so long till I'm out of juniors, you know what I mean? In terms of like, how do I put it? I want to figure out how to bring my best to the platform. That's what the pressure is for me. I feel I want to, obviously there's some things I can't control, but I feel like I want to get down as good of a prep as I can get by the time I get to next world. I want to figure out as much as I can. And for me, it's not necessarily pressure. It's just something I want to do. I want to figure out as more of my training. I want to figure out.
Hey, if Ronnie Coleman was a powerlifting coach, he might have said, everybody wants to build custom training programs, but nobody's got a process for how to do it on the regular. But we do. You see, most coaches rely on trial and error, and that's fine if that's your jam, but we wanted a coherent process. Way back in 2015, when I had already been coaching for over a decade, I finally had learned enough from enough sources that I was able to put the pieces together into one coherent process. We call it emerging strategies. The bulk of our 16 world record-setting powerlifters set those records using an emerging strategies program. We talk about emerging strategies a ton on this podcast and everywhere. If you ever want a single, thorough explanation for how to implement the emerging strategies process, well, that's the emerging strategies course. The emerging strategies course includes 8 modules. That's almost 24 hours of video instruction covering everything. We teach fundamental concepts and basics all the way through integrated examples and case studies. You can watch it at your own pace, as fast or as slow as you want. Oh, and you know the RTS community, our private community that offers you just a stupendous amount of value all on its own? Well, if you enroll in the Emerging Strategies course, you get 6 months of that community membership for free. If you have any questions about some concept, you just post it in the network or jump on a live office hour call with one of our RTS coaches and you get your answer. If you'd like to enroll or just learn more, to include seeing a full lesson list, all you have to do is go to reactivetrainingsystems.com and click on courses in the main menu. You're gonna love it.
Everything there is to know about how I respond to things and how I do things. I want to learn the process, and like I want to learn how to get myself stronger in more ways. And I don't think that's necessarily pressure. It's just something I want to do now that I'm in juniors. I feel like that's something I need to do because I'm getting older and PRs aren't just going to stack themselves up anymore necessarily.
I feel like this is really exciting because you're in an insanely good position at the moment. You still have many years to come in the junior, and the open class is already looking at you, like keeping an eye on you because you are incredibly competitive and there's even more to come. And I feel like you have so many doors open, like no matter what you're gonna do, I feel like you're gonna do great. You also talked about weight classes already. Can you just tell us, because you already have, even in wrestling, I think you already had some good experience with cutting weight, for example. You've always been quite lean, but do you have any plans to compete in other weight classes in the future?
I feel like that's pretty much a certainty at this point. I want to clean up my diet before I fully go up. And obviously I feel like personally, I have some unfinished business in 74. Like some things I still want to do. Like I still want to break that junior total world record. I was so close. I feel like I have to. Even if it's just at some random local meet, I feel like I have to at least reach that. It would be nice to do it at Worlds, but we'll see how my body weight fluctuates. But like at the moment, like I was saying for a lot of the time to a lot of people, like, I know I weigh in light, but it's because I just cut like a lot. Like I'm not usually like just walking around at 70 kilo or 72 kilo. Sometimes, but it's because I restrict my eating generally, because that's just something I'm used to. As someone who wrestled, it's just like, in wrestling, I was cutting like 4 or 5 pounds and I was like sub 10% body fat. So it was like, I'm used to cutting weight. Now that I've started eating more, I'm up to 167. I haven't weighed myself today, but yesterday I was 167. So I'm like, I guess 76 kilo. So a lot heavier than a lot of people. A lot of people were like, there's no way you need to move up to 83 anytime soon. You have years. And I'm like, really? Because I just started eating and now I'm shooting up over the weight class limit in a matter of like weeks.
But you're still cool.
Exactly. I have a lot of doubt that me at 18 is going to be the same as like me at 20.
These things have a way of sorting themselves out too, as you take care of business in the short term, that it becomes more obvious. You can look ahead and plan and have expectations around different things, but then is it time now to move up a weight class? That decision maybe doesn't get made for you, but it becomes a little more obvious when it's like really time to make it.
Yeah, it really shows itself for sure.
Yeah. If you're good at cutting weight and maintaining performance during that weight cut, like that's a positive attribute for competitive powerlifting as well. Some people don't cut weight very well. That's a hurdle.
Yeah, I don't know if I told Adam this, but I was before nationals, which I weighed in at 70 kilo. For the record, I think like a week or so before, I weighed, it would have been 75.5. And then I dropped 5.5 kilos. Not by accident, but I did not mean to drop a whole 5.5 kilos. And my training or my performance was better significantly than my training, apart from like bench. But that was a whole separate issue with my form at heavier weights. Yeah, my performance did not taper off. It went up actually, especially on squat. Jeez. But yeah, I feel like I cut weight well. Not necessarily that I want to cut a ton of weight, because obviously it's still stressful for me, because it's like, what if I miss weight? That would suck. That would suck a lot. I still want to be in a range where I'm like confident there's no way I'm missing weight. You know what I mean? But once at least for now, like maybe once I get older and more competitive and in the open, and like I really find where my weight class is meant to be, then I can start cutting in to the weight class really heavily and exploiting that ability to cut that I have. Because 5 kilos that I cut in a week, and it went pretty well considering.
Yeah, you didn't tell me about that.
I did not. Part of it was by accident. Part of it was because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to miss weight. And
Well, it still worked out, so.
Classic overcorrection. Yeah.
I'm not looking to recreate that, though. I don't want to cut that much weight by accident ever again. I want to cut. Now I'm at the point where I'm like, I'm going to cut the minimum that I have to and really get to the top of the weight class. That's my goal. That's why I'm like, at least for now, over the weight cap. I plan to go down a little bit. Like, I don't want to be way over, but I'm just trying to. I have a super long off season, and I don't necessarily even have to do nationals to qualify right now. I still want to do nationals, but I personally can't foresee any of the juniors. Like, all the juniors that I could have foreseen out totaling my total in the US aged out. So I'm in a pretty comfortable position where I have some leeway. So I just want to build muscle while I'm in a pretty long, no pressure off season, so I can just put in as much work with as much energy as I can.
That's going to be really nice for your recovery as well. Something I'm also interested about is, like, now you just turned 18. You're going to be in a different developmental phase as you get older. Do you already have in mind, like, what you're going to do after high school? Like, do you want to study or work? And did you already think of, like, how your routine and recovery needs are going to require balance with that sort of education, work, or other hobbies?
I have a whole plan put out. So I'm in a gap year right now. I've been trying to do some physical therapy shadowing along with just making some money. My plan after this, after I get some physical therapy shadowing and some volunteer hours and things like that, is to go to community college, do my undergrad, and then eventually, hopefully, it's a feeder program. It goes from my community college into Rowan, which is really nice. So I get to finish that and then hopefully attend a physical therapy program, get a doctorate for that. The ideal college to go to, I think, or uni to go to would be Arcadia. Not super close, but close enough that I could still commute from my parents' house, which is super nice for me because, I mean, for them, as long as I'm actually, like, taking steps to forward myself in life, and, like, I'm not just sitting on my butt doing nothing. As long as I'm actually, like, doing this stuff with physical therapy and doing stuff for school and doing well in school, they're happy to support me any way they can, which is super nice and it's super comforting to know that because not everyone has that. I would like to keep my stay here, because it's food, shelter, and a bunch of other stuff that is taken care of. And it's also cheaper than living on campus. In general, I would like to just make a commute from here to there. So that's my plan, is I want to get a physiotherapy and then use that for my powerlifting coaching, maybe also open my own clinic, whole bunch of things. In terms of, like, training needs, I know a lot of people who have gone into physical therapy, and yeah, it changes, like, how the schedule works. But I feel like as long as my time management can maintain itself and I can make a good schedule where I can plan around these events like school and classes and work and all of those things, as long as I can do that, I think I'll honestly be fine. A super nice thing is that for the most part, payments for coaching and, like, my gym and things like that is handled. I'm sponsored by you guys, which is super nice of you guys. Again, thank you so much. But so I don't have to worry about churning out money for that, so I can focus on paying for things for school and stuff like that. And it's super helpful in terms of me being able to maintain my work ethic and maintain the energy and discipline I put into powerlifting once I enter into college. So yeah, I'm pretty excited.
That's great. That's awesome to see also, that, like, to hear that you have everything planned out for now, and that, like, you also want to combine physiotherapy with training, because that's really nice. In general, also that you're aware that time, like, the schedule might change, but you will be able to adjust it, that you have sponsors and just are overall in a pretty good position to just keep doing what you do. Adam, for you, I have a question, because where do you see the needs to support both when it comes to junior lifters that are quite competitive, to support both their education or work and the competitions?
Yes. So, yeah, obviously, on top of their education, moving forward in creating careers for themselves is priority. So, I've worked with several junior and sub-junior athletes where they're currently going through university or high school. They'll have exams and studying for exams. During those periods, we're looking to reduce some of that training and maybe changes some of the protocols so they're not feeling so much mental fatigue as well, so they can actually focus a bit better. But yeah, that takes a lot of communication as well with the athlete, letting me know those phases are going, when they're going through those phases, and they're quite good with that actually, because yeah, it's quite important for them to study well and get through it. So yeah, it's not all about training hard all the time. It's training hard at the right times and pulling back when we need to. It's not going to be the end of the world if you're doing less than before. It's going to do you a world of good, both training and other life aspects at the same time, trying to balance that stuff. And it's just also, you can see some trends with training as well. If the athlete hasn't that with you and you see some trends going down a bit, like what's going on in your externals, like how are your externals? Are you at school getting more stressful? How's your sleep, etc.? And they're like, oh yeah, I got exams coming up and I'm quite stressed for that as well. We need to pull things back a little bit so you can have a little bit of a breather and focus that on more onto that and use training to blow off some steam. And a lot of athletes like to have their training there just to get it out and blow off some steam, get out of a chair and move around. So yeah, it's definitely key. And it's also just knowing what can affect the athlete as well, knowing what kind of protocols would actually make them feel taxed and what kind of protocols would actually make them feel okay, but actually get some decent work quality in.
Yeah, I really like that you put emphasis on communication, because I've already had junior athletes when it comes to exams that they just feel overwhelmed and training doesn't go well, or even older lifters that just get overwhelmed with work when it's not consistent, like when they have 2 work shifts, for example, or all of a sudden they have more workloads in their lives and they can't necessarily focus that much on training anymore. And when they don't have the time, or just for whatever reason don't feel like communicating about this, then that's where we as coaches also get limited, and we like tend to feel extremely frustrated because we can see that the lifters are just pulling away and having less joy in training, and this is definitely not the goal. So communication and in general setting realistic expectations is, I think, what just keeps you going when it comes to that. Because when you know that training might suck for a while, or that you have to lower your expectations, have to down-regulate training sometimes, and that's okay, and your coach is already expecting this, so it's part of the plan, it can definitely help you to just get through that phase and adapt.
Yeah, and I find that like with some athletes as well, when they're going through those phases, even open lifters, they've got their life stuff going on as well, like work and family, can have that conversation with them. How's your externals? How's your sleep? How's your nutrition? How's your hydration? How's this? Give them the full picture of how everything is going. And they go, okay, sleep is not that great, or hydration, nutrition is not that great. Okay, what low-hanging fruit can we reach for to help you improve? You don't need to work on every single one, but work on one bit at a time and see if you can build some habits on that and then create other habits on top of that. See how that'll improve training. And I actually had a conversation with an athlete late last week about this. Training wasn't going so well. His nutrition wasn't going so well and hydration. And I'm like, okay, let's see what we can do, what we can control and what would be easy for us to control. And maybe we'd do 1 or 2 things and see how you improve. And then I got a message today. Training is feeling so much better since I've hitting my nutrition and drinking more water and getting a little bit more sleep. I'm like, awesome, good job. You worked hard at that. Keep doing that. And then once you build some habits on that, let's see what we can refine, I think. But when you're trying to have these interventions, you don't want to try and fix everything at once. You want to think, like, what's easy for them to do, what's manageable. Otherwise, also look at the training. Okay, is there anything, if you can't control any of that, maybe we need to change some of the training a little bit, pull things back a little bit. as well.
Yeah, athletes in general are really reluctant to pull that lever. They don't like it when we scale training back. They don't like being in situations where we have all been in situations where the smart move is to cut a training session early. And athletes don't like doing that. And I get that, but it's important. Like that's the best available option oftentimes. And we have to remember that the training works for us, not the other way around. Most athletes that are competitive lifters don't really have a problem, like a laziness problem. So it tends to go the other way more often than that.
I think part of the reason for that mentality is because a lot of people feel like they're used to a lot of other sports and a lot of other mentalities where it's like more training is better, always. But sometimes with powerlifting, less is more. It's just how it is. Like, I mean, if more was always more, we would do an SVD day every single day of the week, all the time, max intensity, whatever. But it's just not the case. Sometimes it's, like you guys were saying, it's better to pull back, because if you just do too much while you're under all these other stressors and while you're more susceptible to fatigue, what is that really going to do to you? It's not going to do anything helpful. It's just going to hurt you.
For sure.
It's coming from a good place, right? This desire to push through and to try harder when met with resistance. I think those are admirable qualities. It's just that past a certain point, it doesn't get us any additional benefit and can actually be detrimental. And we learn that response to some degree too, right? Because there's a lot of times earlier on, like I tell this story now and then, where I kind of grew up in my early training phase, really West Side inspired. So like I would do my main lifts, my accessory lifts were always like reverse hypers and glute ham raises. And when I stopped doing that and started doing straight leg deadlifts, my deadlift blew up. I had like 70 pounds on my deadlift in a couple of months. Like, it was ridiculous. And that's a really reinforcing pattern. You go, wait, I stopped doing the easier stuff and started doing harder stuff and got way better. So then the next time that you run into adversity, you go, maybe I should try even harder. Maybe. Could also not be the right answer this time out.
Yeah, it depends.
The famous, yeah.
At the end of the day, it's about training hard and being able to recover from that training, and not actually keep training hard and keep pushing that and not recovering. That's where the adaptations happen as well. You recover and then you go again.
Yeah, I was just going to make a joke. I think that singular anecdote from Mike has convinced me to push my accessories harder. I want to add 70 pounds to my deadlift.
Yeah, I inadvertently set a trap.
Just wait, I'm just messaging Ross to add some stiff legs in my program next week.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, to rephrase also what Adam said, it's not if you go to the gym and you downregulate it, you're only giving, let's say, 70 or 80%, you're giving the 100% that you have available on that day. It doesn't mean that you're slacking. It doesn't mean that you're lazy or anything whatsoever. It just means that you're learning to, adapt based on what your body is capable of on that day, and knowing if you are giving 120% on that day, it's gonna affect your upcoming trainings. So it's all about the long-term goal, also staying in the game.
That was
That
a really good way to phrase that.
For noticing this stuff and investing in your own education as well. That I think that people that get into coaching, like the coaching side of powerlifting and writing training, it does have this effect where you demystify it a little bit and you go, wait a minute, I thought this was a good idea and I wrote it on a piece of paper and here I am and it really doesn't seem like a good idea today. So you've demystified it a little bit and you've made it easier to say, okay, yeah, I'm gonna roll with the punches. Yeah, I'm gonna flex the plan and change things based on the real life situation versus this really ironclad, even bullheaded commitment to a plan that ought not be committed to that level, right?
100%, yeah. Like, I think the way Gabby phrased that was really smart. It's not giving like less than you have. It's giving 100% of what you have on the day. I think that was really smart to say it that way. That's what you got to do. You got to give what you can give for the day, and that'll get you the results or the best results you can get. You know what I mean? Maybe not necessarily the results you were looking forward to, but given the circumstances, that's what it's about, is getting the best you can get from the position you're in. I feel like that was a good way to phrase that.
So what's coming up for you? You mentioned some competitions coming up early next year, and then beyond that, what's the plan?
So my hope is to compete in January. It's going to just be a local meet just to keep my feet wet, maybe try some new peaking strategies like Adam was mentioning, because we've had pretty much the same double frequency for each meet, which is really nice because it lets me know that, hey, if I need to squeeze in peaks in a very short amount of time and I want to extend my training a little bit and then have it peak at the end there, like it still works well. But I also want to try like a full length block peak because we have yet to do that. And I think it could be really good. It could not be so good. It's better to know if it's good or bad than to not know at all. So I'm excited for that. Maybe I could put up some numbers. Maybe I'll do worse than last competition. It doesn't really matter. For me, it's just experimenting and trying things. There's no pressure for it, really. Obviously, everyone loves to PR, and I would love to PR. If I don't, it's not the end of the world. And then in terms of after that, most likely I'll probably be doing age divisionals. It's in May. I was thinking about maybe doing an open, but I was like, that's a lot of competing to do in 1 year. And I still want to go to age divisionals because part of this for me is, I've said this a lot, is meeting people and making connections and making friends with people in the sport that are also my age. And no offense to the open lifters, but a lot of them are not my age, a little bit older than me. And so I want to meet people that are my age, that are getting into the sport in the same era I am, and to get perspective from other people my age. And obviously, there's also a ton of value in getting knowledge from the open lifters too. And that's something I definitely plan to do eventually. But I think it would be a little bit of a jump, a little bit too early, right? I haven't even competed as a junior yet at a big competition. So I want to do that first before I do anything really in the open, because going from sub-junior and juniors straight to, hey, I'm a 74 competing in the open against the best pound for pound lifter in the world right now is a big jump. It's a big expectation jump.
It
Like,
doesn't get any bigger than that kind of jump. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
No, I think that's solid. I like your rationale too about building relationships and forging connections with your own peer group like that. I talk about that with people like my friends that I see at competitions as well. That is a big part of keeping up with the sport, is this kind of social, there's a social quality to it, and these really interesting social connections that develop. And like any sort of social relationship, it doesn't happen by accident. Not like you needed my sign off on his pivot, but I definitely think that you've got a good plan there and that you're doing some smart things.
I'm doing my best. Like I said, one of the reasons that I run the sport so much is social connection. So I feel like it would be a mistake not to make more.
Yeah, totally. If you do,
in terms of the world,
if you do get to the point where certain competitions start to look more enticing, like you can modify the plan. It's one of the nice things about it being your plan. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. And one of the nice things about having a coach is that's what we have coaches for, is to modify plans and make those adjustments to get those goals that you want.
And help for some perspective.
You guys are experienced.
Like the sounding board for that kind of, it's hard to internal monologue on this stuff as much as it needs to be expounded on. Just having that sounding board is really helpful as well.
100%. Sometimes all you need is just to kind of say it out loud, just list off ideas and hear yourself say them, and then be like, oh, wow, that's pretty smart. Or, oh, that was not that smart. Okay, let's not do that. But yeah, sometimes it helps to just kind of hear yourself say it out loud, or to get an outside perspective on that. And Adam has been super helpful with just being a wall I can just bounce ideas off of, and him being like, oh, wow, that's smart if you think it'll work. Or being like,
maybe we should talk about this one a little more. Adam's very diplomatic when it comes to stuff like that.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, he's been very, I feel like that's the thing I like about working with Adam a ton, is that pretty much every time we do a new block, I always have input on it. Like it's never just like him being like, okay, do this. It's okay, what do you feel like you want to do? And then working from there to do the best based off of what I want to do. And I think, I don't know, I think it's been super helpful, not only in actually making my training effective, but also in helping me where in the coaching process of bouncing back ideas and kind of making adjustments based off of what the person needs. And I think it's awesome. I think it's super nice for me because I know what to expect. I know the purpose. And that's another thing. I know the purpose behind the training and the adjustments that were made. It's not like I'm just getting this new thing in my training. I'm like, why am I doing this? Oh, guess I'll do it. Like I get to do it with purpose, with intent. And I think that's really important in training, is being able to do the movements that are assigned to you and the reps and everything with intent. I think that's really important. And that's something Adam's done great at.
Yeah, I feel like that's also how you learn in training as well. I really like how you said that, like, you need to live with intent. You need to know what is happening, because at the end of the day, motivation comes and goes. It's not always very stable. So at least knowing what the goal is and what the intent of your training is actually what can help you to just keep going. Yep.
100%. Yeah. And then, yeah, even with the prep for Worlds, I think we changed it, 3 times where I was like, okay, he was like, okay, I'm going to give you singles. And I was like, wait, no, I want to do triples. And then I was like, wait, no, I want to do singles again. So it changed just a few times.
Yeah.
And it still ended up good.
I think either way we went with that option, I think would have worked. I'm like, okay, what would make you feel more confident? What would make you feel more locked in? Okay, triples. Okay, singles. Okay, let's go with that. It's fine. But yeah, we've definitely found a few things that have worked really well, and especially with the deadlift. With the deadlift for a while, being able to cluster that, especially when you've switched to hook grip as well, that's been trending really well. So
a lot better than mixed, just out of nowhere, just couldn't hold anything over 240. So
even in your off-season block now, I've left some lower intensity singles there for you to just keep practicing it, but also get the volume in.
And
after.
it's been working.
It's fun.
I just have to add, Elliot, that I really love the excitement that you're showing and also the curiosity that you have in training to learn more. I think that's going to help you a lot in the future. And it was also really refreshing to hear from a junior lifter, like having that motivational perspective, not motivational, that mature perspective already in training, to know when it's time to just downregulate training, knowing that it's going to help you in the long run. And yeah, I am really excited to see you perform in the future. It's just going to be great.
I appreciate it. Yeah. I think that's, you asked earlier, like advice for younger lifters. And I think that's a big thing, is being receptive to not necessarily criticism, but like to people that know more than you and have been in the sport longer than you, and taking advice from people that know what they're doing. And I think a lot of these people that are get into the sport aren't necessarily receptive. And I think that's a mistake. I think thinking everything is maybe one of the biggest mistakes you can ever make in a sport or in anything in that regard, because you're just denying yourself opportunities to improve and learn. Because reality is, no one knows everything about anything. There's always more you can learn. And I think a lot of people feel like, oh yeah, I can't learn anything more than this. I know everything. And then they get to that point. I don't know if you guys have seen the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's, oh wow, I know everything. Oh, I know nothing. And then they start being receptive, and it's, oh wow, I'm learning more and more. So I think that's valuable.
Yeah, you've got a lot more to learn than they first appeared. But one of the things that I really enjoyed from talking to you, Elliot, is that you've got a lot of enthusiasm for the sport of powerlifting. And That's just so much better than like the old vibe that I get from some people, especially gets to be more and more people in like my peer group. Like powerlifting is awesome, and it's nice that it's awesome, and we should enjoy that, right? I really dig the vibe, man. And it was good to chat with you. Thanks for taking the time and hanging out with us, sharing some of your experiences. I'm glad that Adam could be here too to give the other half of the perspective. You guys are definitely working together as a team, and it's cool to hear from both of you.
100%. It was super fun. It was super fun.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, thanks. And thanks everybody for
having
watching
me.
and listening, and we'll see you guys next time.
Hey, let me tell you something that I know about you. Your lifting is important to you. It's probably one of your biggest priorities. And for people like us, nothing compares to the feeling that you get when you set a new PR. That feeling of being the best that you've ever been, of doing something that you've never done before. This is what we're all after, and it's also what RTS specializes in. Getting you the absolute best program possible so that you can hit new PRs and reach your goals. We call it radically individualized training, and we're really good at it. Whether we need to account for busy schedules or equipment limitations, or precisely turn the dials and get the details of the program just right, we have the tools and the experience to guide your lifting to the next level. To us, coaching is all about leadership, relationship, and creative problem solving. A coach should be poised to help you make tough decisions about training and competing so that you can continually grow in your development. And of course, a coach should be a first-rate problem solver, especially when it comes to your training, technique, and strategy. Now, all this has to be built off of a really strong, professional coaching relationship that emphasizes trust and respect. Additionally, RTS coaches are not on an island. We have a strong network of professionals to reach out to, so if you find yourself in need of some specific expertise, say in the realm of nutrition or injury management or sports psychology, there's a deep expertise available there too. For more information, go to store.reactivetrainingsystems.com and click on coaching. That's store.reactivetrainingsystems.com, then click on coaching. Hope to see you on the team soon.